Lowe's knows that no matter your paint project, saving is at the top of your list. That's why when you shop today, you can buy one, get one free select Valspar and HGTV Home by Sherwin-Williams one-coat coverage interior paints via rebate. Shop these deals in-store or online today at Lowe's. We help, you save. Selection varies by location. While supplies last. Discount taken at time of purchase. See sales associate for details. Offer valid 8/21 through 9/3.
When I was a kid, one of my favorite things to do was to gaze up at the night sky. I remember lying on the rooftop, staring for what felt like hours, wondering what stories the stars are trying to tell me. And to be honest, even now, I still love looking up. But somehow, life moves so fast these days, and it's hard to find that kind of quiet again. I don't remember the title anymore, but one of my favorite books was this book about planets. It was one of those thick cardboard books meant for kids, and I couldn't even read it at that time, but I already knew the names of the 9 planets. Yeah, 9. Pluto was still in the gang back then. But the part that stuck with me most was the constellations. I couldn't quite see the shapes. Like, how did people look up and see a hunter or a lion or a scorpion? Like, what kind of imagination did that take? And then, in grade school, I remember someone called a group of stars the rosary. That one I believed, and it did look like a rosary. Later, someone told me it was also the story of the 7 sisters, but the details are blurry now. And that's the thing about oral stories. If no one tells them again, they fade. I grew up in a farming town, but by the time I was old enough to pay attention, the stars no longer told the seasons. Farmers just planted based on the calendar months. June and July, just like this time, meant the rains. And that's when they tried their luck with crops. If the yield was good, then they'd call it suerte or lucky. If not, well, better luck next season. But when I started reading about the past, about how our ancestors actually used the stars to time their planting, I felt something strange. A mix of amazement and disappointment. Amazed that we once had such knowledge, such intimacy with the sky, and disappointed because we forgot. So, in today's episode, we're looking up, and way back, because the stars above the Philippines didn't go unnamed. They were Balatik, Moroporo, Batugan, and more. These constellations weren't just lights in the sky. They were calendars, stories, symbols, and guides. We'll explore how ancient Filipinos made sense of the night sky, how they read the heavens to guide the cycles of life, and how these star stories still echo if we choose to remember them. Are you ready? Let's trace those constellations, not with apps or telescopes, but with memory, imagination, and wonder. Long before modern astronomy reached our shores, the night sky was already a living map of early Filipinos. It told them when to plant, when to harvest, when to fish, when to expect the rains, and when to offer prayers. These constellations weren't just scientific, they were deeply spiritual, woven into epics, rituals, and daily life. In this episode, we explore how our ancestors named and interpreted the stars, constellations that guided indigenous communities, sky-based systems of agriculture and ritual, and how Filipino ethnoastronomy fits into the larger Southeast Asian cosmos. We'll travel through the oral traditions of the Ifugao, Tagalog, and discover the ancient relationship between the sky, the land, between cosmic patterns and cultural rhythms. The stars haven't changed, but maybe the stories have. Hi and welcome to LilWeird. I'm Jane, your host and curious companion in this journey through the strange, the sacred, and the starry. Whether you're here for the folklore, the forgotten, or the feeling of wandering itself, I'm so glad you found your way to this little universe. Let's dive into the stories written in starlight and maybe remember something we didn't know we'd forgotten. Ethnoastronomy is an interdisciplinary field that investigates the intricate relationship between human cultures and celestial phenomena. It goes beyond the mere scientific cataloging of stars and planets, delving into how different societies observe, interpret, and integrate the cosmos into their knowledge systems, daily practices, and spiritual worldviews. This discipline uniquely bridges the scientific study of astronomy with cultural anthropology, history, and folklore, offering profound perspectives on human cosmos relationships that often transcend Western scientific paradigms. As we explored in our last episode, ancient cultures worldwide, from the Polynesian wayfinders to the Egyptian tracking Sirius, relied on the sky as living calendar and guide. In the Philippines, ethnoastronomy explores how indigenous peoples named stars, interpreted celestial movements, and integrated the sky into their livelihoods long before colonizers introduced Western constellations or calendars. Interest in indigenous star knowledge gained attention in the 20th century through ethnographic research and collaboration with local elders. Scholars began documenting how communities like the Tagalog and Ifugao looked to the sky not just for direction, but for ritual, farming, and navigation. These records uncovered traditional names for constellations and stars, many of which held agricultural significance. For instance, a certain star rising at dawn could indicate the time to plant rice. The term Balatik, identified by the Tagalog and other ethno-linguistic groups, is among the most widely known constellations, traditionally associated with hunting traps or spears. This discovery is more than nostalgia, it's a revival of indigenous memory. Among the Tagalog and neighboring groups, the word talampad refers to a path or trail in the sky formed by stars. These trails acted like cosmic roadmaps, guides for when to sow, harvest, or hold community rituals. Similar to the Western concept of the zodiac or ecliptic, Talampad maps seasonal changes, reflecting a deep ecological awareness embedded in the sky. For the Palawan people, there are at least 24 named Talampad. The word for star in many Philippine languages, bituin, bituon, bituon, bituen, comes from shared Austronesian roots, showing how deeply embedded sky watching is in the region's linguistic heritage. While bituin referred to individual stars, constellations are often described with more specific terms like talampad among Tagalog-speaking groups, literally a pathway or trail, hinting at how stars were used as seasonal or directional guides. Different ethnolinguistic groups assign vivid functional names to clusters of stars based on their appearance or what they signal in daily life. For example, Balatik or Orion. This is widely recognized. It is interpreted as a spear trap by the Tagalogs, Maguindanawans, Bicol, and Bagobo. The Teduray know the hunter as Seretar, with nearby Pleiades or Kufu-Kufu as flies swarming over his pig's remains. In Palawan and Ibaloy traditions, it's Orion's sword and belt. The Ilocanos and Igorots interpret it as their weaving frame, the Gaganayan. The Matigsalug Manobo of Bukidnon link it to the commencement of planting season and setting traps to protect their crops. Moroporo or the Pleiades is the star cluster known by various names such as Moroporo or Molopolo for Tagalogs and Bicolanas, Kuku-Kuku for the Teduray, and Pandarawa for Matigsalug Manobo. For the Bukidnons, it's the mystical hero Magbangal's hunting ground. The Matigsalug Manobo use it to mark the beginning of crop planting in January. Tagalogs also refer to it as mapolon or supot ni Judas, using it to discern the shifting of time and seasons and to signal the start of planting activities. It's also connected to sea navigation. Tala or Venus is the bright morning or evening star, often deified in Tagalog mythology. Talang Batugan or lazy star, characterized by its slow motion, large size, and low brightness, it served as a guiding star for shepherds in Tagalog tradition. Gibbang or Gemini appears in April to May for the Matigsalug Manobo, signaling the conclusion of planting season and forecasting a rich harvest. Malara or Canis Minor indicates the end of the planting season in May for the Matigsalug Manobo. Also, in Bukidnon, it's associated with the onset of cloudy weather during the planting season. Lepu or Aquila, utilized by the Matigsalug Manobo in late May for clearing fields in preparation for harvest. Baha or Taurus appears from December to February for the Matigsalug Manobo, signaling the clearing of forests to prepare land for crops. Buaya marks the onset of the rainy season in June. Bicolano stars include Pogot, used as a sign for fishing and incoming storms, Sowag, a four-star figure signaling the beginning of nighttime, and Torong, three stars indicating an approaching storm. Pupu or Sama Dilaut is a constellation used as a constant alert while at sea, highlighting its role in maritime safety. Mamahi Utara, identified as a prominent navigational star, serving as the North Star. The Sama people use this to guide their sailing northeast towards Cotabato and Zamboanga and northwest towards Sabah. Bunta or Southern Cross, associated with a puffer fish, used for sea crossings, and its seasonal appearance is linked to the Satan or south wind. Mupu, its appearance in the east at nightfall signals the Utara or north wind. These celestial names are not just poetic, they were practical, helping to mark agricultural seasons, ritual dates, and navigational routes, transforming the night sky into a living calendar and storybook. So let's begin with Balatik, arguably the most prominent and widely recognized indigenous constellation in the Philippines. Identified with Orion's belt, Filipinos saw it not as a hunter but as a trap, a bar trap or spring-loaded snare, used for both hunting and signaling the start of the planting season. Its presence above the horizon marked the onset of the dry season, a critical time for preparing fields and sowing seeds. It is a pre-colonial and indigenous remembered across regions before European constellations took over. It is widespread, found in many local traditions across Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. Its name and symbolism are rooted in hunting, but it serves a vital role in agriculture. It became a central point of reference in early farming calendars, tracking the change of seasons and marking time. Next is Moroporo, the cluster stars known globally as the Pleiades. If Balatik signals action, Moroporo is a guidepost for preparation, a sign to clear the land, or kaingin, to mark transitions and to begin new cycles. These names reflected distinct worldview and practical applications. In Bukidnon, Moroporo is considered the mythical hero Magbangol's hunting ground, with the nearby Hyades, or Baka, representing the jawbone or a slain wild pig. For the Tederai, Kupu-Kupu, or the Pleiades or flies hovering over the hunter's Ceratar's catch, complementing their Orion interpretation. In Palawan traditions, Mopo or the Pleiades is seen as a stockpile of sweet potatoes. The Hyades are called Sangat at Biyak, interpreted as the boar's jaw and fang. Orion becomes Binawagan Magsasawid, or the hunter preparing to strike. In these traditions, the Hyades stars are often depicted as the jaw or face of a wild boar. The Pleiades as various targets or offerings, like the flies, tubers, or pigs, and Orion as the hunter or weapon. This star trio creates a celestial narrative, a visual myth told not in text but in night skies. These constellations were not merely decorative or spiritual. They were practical instruments used for agricultural and timekeeping. Celestial observations were an indispensable component of agricultural cycles, effectively serving as a natural calendar system. The appearance of Balatik in December signaled the precise beginning of the kaingin or slash and burn farming season for the Bagbobo people. The Tederai people determined their planting season by observing Orion or Seretar, commencing planting when Seretar entered the chicken's nest. The Matigsalug Monoba tribe in Bukidnon province utilizes a particularly detailed constellation-based agricultural calendar where stars like Baha or Taurus signal forest clearing. This is from December to February. Pandarawa or the Pleiades marks crop planning in January, and Balatik or Orion's belt indicates the start of actual planting in February and setting traps for crops. Malihes signifies rice, corn, or vegetable planting in March. Gibang or the Gemini and Malara, the Canis Minor, mark the end of planting season around April to May, and a rich harvest or Gibang or stop planting Malara, and Lepu or Aquila signals field clearing for harvest. This is on late May, and the Buaya signals the start of the rainy season in June. Lunar phases also guided practices with the Ugsad or full moon and Lati 3 days before and after new moon, affecting crop produce for the Panay Bukidnon. Planting root crops like cassava and sweet potato during Lati was believed to yield larger tubers or hanulod, while sowing rice or paminhi was ideally performed during Ugsad or the full moon. Navigation and wayfinding. As we discussed regarding global wayfinding in our previous episode, ancient Filipinos were renowned as expert seafarers, relying heavily on celestial navigation to traverse the vast expanses of the Pacific Ocean. Their profound knowledge of the night sky was fundamental for charting new horizons and establishing trade routes. Filipino seafarers meticulously observed the movements of celestial bodies, using stars as their primary guides. The concept of star compass, or kapehu wetu, provides a compelling parallel for sophisticated indigenous navigation, involving memorizing the precise rising and setting points of numerous stars and planets to determine direction and maintain course without physical tools. Moroporo or the Pleiades is explicitly connected to sea navigation. Talang Batugan serve as a guiding star for shepherds, implying its use for terrestrial orientation. Mamahi o Tara is identified as a prominent navigational north star, used by the Sama people for sailing northeast towards Cotabato and Zamboanga and northwest towards Sabah. Buntad, the Southern Cross, is used for sea crossings, and its seasonal appearance is linked to the Satan or south wind. The appearance of Mupu signals the Utara or north wind. Orion's belt, known as the Now Cow or the Darts in a broader Polynesian context, provided lane markers for monitoring changes in latitude. Its rightmost star, Mintaka, can also be used to locate true east or west. Polaris, the North Star, remains in an almost fixed position, pointing true north. Cassiopeia, appearing as an M or W, can be used opposite Polaris to ascertain true north. The Southern Cross or Crux is a key constellation for finding south in the southern hemisphere. Sirius, the brightest star, is visible in both hemispheres and can be utilized to locate south. This star-based navigation was not a standalone practice, but an integral part of a larger integrated wayfinding system, encompassing wind patterns, ocean currents, ocean swells, clouds, and wildlife observations. The skies were the original scrolls of the Filipino people, alive with meaning, memory, and motion. But what happens when the stars fade? When stars, one named after boars and drops and sweet potatoes, were suddenly renamed after great gods. That's what happened when colonialism reached our shores. The Spanish and later the Americans brought their own constellations, calendars, and concepts of time. Slowly, the indigenous sky was overwritten. The constellations we learn today in school, Orion, Cassiopeia, Taurus, Leo, are Western ones. Useful, yes, but foreign to our soil. They became the default, and the native Dalampad nearly forgotten. Missionaries taught that indigenous beliefs were pagan or backward. Oral traditions were discouraged. Western education replaced ancestral knowledge with European sciences. The names of our stars were no longer spoken in classrooms, only in hushed tones by elders who still remembered. The erasure of native skies wasn't just about replacing names. It was about replacing worldviews. Indigenous cosmologies, where the stars were alive, helpful, sacred, were reduced to curiosities, replaced by Greco-Roman myths and colonial timekeeping. As classrooms taught Cassiopeia and Leo, the names Manapuro, Kufu-Kufu, and Supotnihudas slowly disappeared. But here's the hope. What has been forgotten can be remembered. Each story we uncover, each name we speak again, is a star lit across the islands. There are artists, elders, scholars, and storytellers rekindling the fire. Maybe, just maybe, you're one of them. This revival would not be possible without the quiet brilliance of one man, Dr. Dante Ambrosio, often called the Father of Philippine Ethnoastronomy, a physicist, historian, and cultural researcher. He dedicated his life to tracing the forgotten skies of our ancestors, collecting oral histories, indigenous names, and celestial meanings that had long been pushed aside. He gave language back to the stars. Though he's no longer with us, his work continues to shine, like the constellations he so lovingly reclaimed. Thanks to his work and the efforts of cultural groups, museums, and indigenous elders, we are seeing a quiet resurgence of sky stories. Exhibits like the National Planetariums, Filipino Life Guided by Skies, and community-led initiatives like Balatik are helping light the way. But the stars can't wait forever. As elders grow older, these stories must be passed down or they'll fade again. So tonight, when you look up, look not just with awe, but within remembrance. You're not just stargazing, you're listening to echoes. You're continuing a story. You're helping the sky remember its name. We began this episode with a simple memory of stargazing as a child, of wondering what stars live in the skies. And now, here we are, after walking through constellations renamed and remembered, myths nearly lost, and knowledge one passed from generation to generation. Something lingers. A question, a quiet ache. Because somewhere along the way, we stopped looking up. We lowered our gaze toward glowing screens, message alerts, and daily to-do lists. The stars didn't vanish, but their meaning slowly faded. They kept shining above us, offering clues, waiting to be noticed, but we stopped paying attention. It's a quiet kind of heartbreak to realize that our ancestors once knew the sky like the back of their hands. They saw planting calendars and star clusters. They traced bores and traps in the constellations. Meanwhile, here we are, modern, connected, informed, struggling to name even one star in our own tongue. We knew the stars before we knew calendars. We knew time before we were taught it. And yet here we are, scrolling to find meaning when all we had to do was look up. But maybe it's not too late. Maybe remembering isn't just nostalgia. It's a quiet rebellion, a way to take back the stories, to honor the wisdom we once had, to pass it on, one name, one star, one tale at a time. So the next time you stop outside on a clear night, pause for a moment, let your eyes drift skyward. Somewhere in that velvet dark, Balatik still hunts, Moroporo still shines, and who knows, maybe an old name will find its way back to you.